So there's only one other piece of technology that we need before we can start implementing login and registration. And I think we'll do that part next week because this lesson already has some things that could be tricky, like getting pair working, getting email working, getting this JavaScript working. So I think that's enough for this week, but let's take a look at one more thing. So let's talk about security. And next week when we do the login, we're going to be sending passwords, and we're going to want to only send passwords across secure connections. So you'll notice right now I'm not in a secure connection, and when I click on this button, it's fetched not on a secure connection. But what if we want to make sure that data gets sent only across a secure connection? So I'm going to hit the calculate button, and right now this is using Ajax to fetch the data. Let's look at the code for that. That's right here in calculator content. Here's the Ajax call. So $.post, and then the path is using the same protocol as the dialog was using, which is just HTTP. But what if we force this to use HTTPS? So HTTPS:// and then I'm going to go localhost. Obviously, I'd want constants for this. I'd want to check $ under request and lots of stuff to do this the right way. But for now, I'm just going to hard code it. CIS 295P / and then share / assets actions do calculate. So if I go ahead and execute this now, I'm going to go ahead and reload. I'm in an unsecure connection. This isn't an unsecure connection. And when I go ahead and enter my data, when I hit this calculate button, it's going to attempt to use a secure connection to fetch the results. And it doesn't work anymore. And if you go F12 to see the console, you'll notice I have this error 4 times because I hit the button 4 times. XML HTTP request cannot load this thing. No access control allow origin headers present on the requested resource, and origin is therefore not allowed to access. So this is a complicated error message, but what it's really saying is that I'm loading a resource from one host, http://localhost, and then that page is trying to access a resource on another host. HTTPS://localhost is actually considered a different host and protocol than HTTP://localhost. And this is known as cross-site scripting. I'd get the same thing if I was trying to access http://someotherdomain.com as I would using a different protocol. Either way, it's considered cross-site scripting because the page that's loaded from one site is trying to access a resource on another site. Now, this is considered a security issue because it's possible to use an attack where I trick the user into accessing content from one site when they think they're actually accessing content on another site. So for example, I show them a form, a login form, but the login form is actually sending the data to my bad web server instead of to the good web server where the user thinks that they're sending their data. So in order to avoid cross-site scripting attacks, those are disabled by default. And when you try to initiate something that looks like a cross-site scripting attack, this is the error you get. Cannot load a resource because you're trying to load it cross-site. Now, in some cases, you actually do want to permit this. So for example, I'm unsecure and I want to let the user log in securely, but I don't want to leave this page. That's an example of cross-site scripting that you really want to allow. And there's a way of doing that. It's actually pretty easy. This thing, access control allow origin, you want to specify that in the header of the page that you're sending in response to the request. So the HTTPS:// and so on, this thing right here is calling to calculate. This page, when I send back the result, I also need to send back the right header. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this thing, access control, allow origin, copy, and then I'm going to go here, and I'm going to add a second header. Paste, colon, and then I can write a pattern for what hosts are allowed to access this resource cross-site. And I'm going to use star to mean any host can access this resource. So if I just add that one page and then hit calculate, now it works. So by changing the header, I'm allowing cross-site scripting, and that's what we're going to use next week to let an unsecure page access secure login.